Have you ever been watching Netflix and you realize that there's too many options? There's so many choices to choose from. This is actually called the choice paradox, which essentially means there are too many options and it's really tough to decide on what to do. So you end up watching absolutely nothing and you scroll for hours on end and then you fall asleep, which is really sad, but that's how it works. Since the 1950s, the Leica M mount hasn't changed and there's so many lens options out there. I want to help you decide if this 28mm Thypoch Simera 1.4 is going to be a good option for you, and maybe I'll be able to cut out your choice paralysis. So whenever I go to purchase a lens, I usually have 5 things that I have to check off before purchasing the lens, and those 5 things are: number 1, image quality; number 2, build quality; number 3, tactility; number 4, in this case, it was to be a fast prime lens; and number 5 is price. All right, so obviously number 1, image quality is something that's very important to any photographer looking for a lens. And in my opinion, through all of the research that I did for around a year, I kept coming back to the Thypoch Simera. And the images do have a 3D pop-esque look. I know that's such a cliche term now within the Leica community, but it does have a look where you would think there's a good potential that that was shot with a Leica lens. And honestly, the most impressive part about this is that this lens would be direct competitors with the Leica 28mm 1.4 Summilux, which costs almost 10 times as much as this lens. And you can buy a lot of shit with $7,000. You could buy a motorcycle, a guitar, an A7 III with a 24-70. And you could also go to Cape Town, South Africa in January with us for our retreat and still have a little bit of money left over almost to buy the lens that we're talking about today. That's a lot. But of course, we also have to talk about the build quality. The build quality is honestly superb. It is made of all metal and it feels fantastic. You can get black and silver and it just feels really good in the hands. I love something that feels good and feels right and feels like it's gonna last a long time. And this lens is exactly that for me. This lens also comes with a 14 blade diaphragm, which creates some of the best bokeh that you can get. With so many aperture rings, this creates a beautiful bokeh and fall off. And the bokeh is very, very circular, as you can see through some of these images. These are things that make a great lens, and it really is very Leica-esque. I'm surprised that it costs as little as it does, and honestly I would pay more for it than what they asked for, but that's just me. Hopefully these images are helping you to see if it's worth $700. This lens also comes in a variety of mounts. So you have Nikon, Sony, the Canon RF mount, which is insane because wouldn't that be one of the first full frame third-party lenses available for RF? And Fujifilm plus Leica M mount. So it's just nice that they are reaching out to so many brands and giving people what they want. This lens is really nice for video work as well because it does have a declickable aperture ring, which could also be used at weddings for photographers if they are in an environment where you have to be silent shutter, and a silent aperture as well. These are super convenient things that they have built into this lens, which can be very important for a lot of people out there. It's very nice and versatile, and I love that about this lens. Aperture ring, clicked at the bottom, declicked, smooth, very smooth. All right, so I'm shooting this on the Thypoch right now, and it's on my Sony a7 IV adapted. It's something that I use sometimes if I'm feeling like shooting, but not with the Leica. So anyway, this is it. And you can see if I want to adjust the aperture, there are no clicks, which is fantastic. So a lot of people complain about one thing with this lens, and that is the infinity lock. And honestly, I have not had one single problem with this. I'm not really sure how people are holding the focusing tab, but if you just lightly hold it and turn it, it never gets locked. But it's there if you need it, and it's not been a problem for me at all. And hopefully, if you decide to go this lens, it won't be a problem for you. But apparently they fixed this with all the other mounts other than the M mount. So this is the only time you're gonna run into that problem, is if you're using it on a Leica. Another unique aspect of this lens, which makes it so noticeable whenever you're carrying it around on your neck, is the depth of field meter. This is so unique, and it's paying homage to older lenses that used to have something very similar. It's super easy to read, and it's just fun to watch in action. I absolutely love that about this lens as well. And I know there's not a lot of things that I'm saying bad about this lens, because honestly, there's not a lot bad about it. It's a little bit bigger than some lenses, but whenever you're at a 1.4 aperture, look at a 7 Artisan's 28mm. It's huge. And then also, this is the same size as the Summilux 28mm 1.4. That costs 10 times as much. That's a complaint that people have, is size. And really, it's not that big at all, in my opinion. This is it right beside a Voigtlander 28mm f2. They're pretty close in size. You get a couple stops of light with this one, but it's negligible. If you were wondering about how I created the images to look like this, I actually created a preset specifically for the M10 sensor. I know it's very niche, but it's out and the link is below if you want to thumb through those. Check those out if you're interested. Overall, this lens is phenomenal. I give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason that I take one number away is due to the infinity lock that other people complain about and the size that other people complain about. Because if you're getting something based off of my suggestions, then I want you to know about the things that you may like or dislike. And those are things that you could potentially dislike. I didn't talk too much about sharpness and vignetting. It does have a mild vignette to it, easily fixed in post, because it always is. The sharpness is sharp to the corners. Of course, then you have vignetting, reduce it, and you're good to go. Image quality, great build, tactility, price, and a fast aperture. That's what I wanted. That's what I got. The Thypoch Simera 28mm 1.4 for the M mount is phenomenal. Definitely the best 28mm that I've used, and I've had 3 different ones, and I've tried the Summilux, and I was not as impressed as I thought I was going to be for $7,000. And I hope that your choice paralysis has dissipated just a little bit. Until next time, peace.